Okay, let's dive into some really powerful bits from Songs chapter 7.
Right.
And you're dropped like straight into a crisis situation. You've got this speaker facing just intense opposition, real danger.
Hmm.
They're crying out, appealing for justice, overwhelmed, threatened.
It's a very dramatic start, isn't it? That sense of peril is, well, immediate. You feel it.
Yeah.
The enemy isn't just some abstract opponent. No, they're described as like hunting the speaker down,
Wow.
ready to tear them apart like a lion.
Wow, like a lion.
Yeah, and there's that feeling of being completely alone,
Yeah.
none to rescue. It paints a picture of, well, just extreme vulnerability.
That lion imagery is incredibly potent, but then almost jarringly, the speaker kind of shifts gears
Right.
from this like desperate cry for rescue to this really strong declaration of their own integrity, their innocence. It's
Yes.
not just help me, it's also a defense. They basically say, look, if I've actually done anything wrong, if I'm guilty, then yeah, let this awful stuff happen to me. So what's going on there? What's happening in that pivot?
Well, that's where this text gets really fascinating, I think. This isn't just, general complaining. It feels almost like a legal appeal within this lament.
Legal appeal. Okay.
Yeah, the speaker isn't just saying, I'm innocent in a vacuum. They're actually placing their case before, well, a divine judge,
Right.
asserting their righteousness, their integrity against whatever accusations are implied by the enemy hunting them. It's a bold move, saying my hands are clean. So judge based on that.
So they're not just asking for rescue in general, but for a specific kind of justice tied to their own clean record.
Exactly. And that leads straight into the appeal for God to step in as that judge.
The call for God to arise.
Precisely. Arise, decree justice. It's asking the ultimate authority to step in and evaluate the whole situation, not based on who's stronger or who's shouting louder,
Right, not based on the enemy's claims.
but on the actual facts of the case. The speaker's asserted innocence versus, well, the enemy's malice. And what's crucial is the speaker trusts that a fair evaluation will clear them and condemn the oppressor.
Okay. And this trust in divine judgment then flows into that incredibly vivid section about what happens to the wicked.
Yes.
It paints this picture where their evil plans don't just, fail. They actually turn back on themselves.
That imagery is so striking, isn't it? And really central to how the psalm resolves itself. The wicked are described as being pregnant with evil, conceiving trouble, and then giving birth to disillusionment or falsehood.
So their efforts are just doomed from the start.
Essentially, yeah. Unproductive, leading to ruin. But the most memorable image, I think, is the one you touched on. He who digs a hole and scoops it out falls into the pit he's made.
The classic, the trap they set becomes their own downfall.
Exactly.
And the violence they plan, it says his violence comes down on his own head. Why these specific images, do you think? Digging pits, violence recoiling? What's that telling us about consequence?
Well, I think it's suggesting something more than just, bad things happen to bad people. These images point towards a kind of inherent self-destruction within evil itself.
Okay.
The effort, the energy put into malice, digging that pit, planning violence, it's ultimately wasted energy that just boomerangs back.
So it's not always like a lightning bolt from heaven.
Not necessarily portraying a specific external punishment in every instance, no. It's more illustrating a principle.
Yeah.
The very nature of wicked schemes holds the seeds of their own failure, their own reversal. It's a powerful way to see justice as an intrinsic force alongside that explicit appeal for God to intervene.
That adds a whole other layer. So divine judgment, yes, but also this idea that malice is just inherently unstable, self-defeating.
Pretty much.
Okay, so if we tie this whole journey together, starting from feeling like prey
Utter vulnerability.
to asserting innocence before a judge, and then finally picturing the oppressor's own plans backfiring.
It maps out a really profound movement, doesn't it? From that raw cry of distress, through a strong declaration of integrity, and crucially, trust in a higher justice,
Right.
culminating in this vision of the wicked basically collapsing under their own weight. And the psalm ends by framing this whole outcome as a reason for gratitude, for praise.
Finding peace, maybe not because the threat is instantly gone, but through a shift in perspective.
Exactly. A perspective rooted in trust. Trust in a just order, and maybe trust in the self-destructive nature of evil itself.
So thinking about today, what does this ancient text speak to you about? That raw feeling of being wronged, that deep desire for things to be made right.
Yeah.
And maybe how trust, whether it's in your own integrity or in some larger sense of consequence, can offer a path even when you're in the middle of conflict.
It suggests, perhaps, that the way we often think about justice unfolding isn't always about a direct, immediate intervention.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's about watching how malicious actions just will tend to unravel on their own.
It really challenges you to consider if the pit dug for someone else often ends up trapping the digger. How does truly trusting that principle, that actions have these built-in consequences, how might that change the way you navigate the challenges or injustices you face? Something to sit with.